like everybody. Dane here from the Local Studies Centre of Aberdeenshire Library Services. Here is part 4 of the podcast of Aberdeenshire Witches. I hope you enjoy.
And the execution, mainly in Aberdeen, and the judicial executions were formalised where the witches were carted to a particular place, Heading Hill in Aberdeen. There they were strangled by the executioner. And of course, this would be a big thing. There would be lots of people there. At one of them, there was something like 7,000 people. So in front of that crowd, a very busy crowd. There would be traders trading things, if you can imagine. It was a quite a spectacle. And these poor women were then strangled and then they were burnt. And the burning would come with, or would be done with a lot of accelerants, things like tar barrels would be placed around them. There would be coal and wood. So you can imagine that the smell and the spectacle would be quite horrific. In the parishes, the executions were a little bit more rough and ready. There wasn't that quite the same judicial process. These were hung. Some witches were hung on elm trees at a high point. Some other high points that had ancient stones were used. Sometimes witches were put into barrels that had spikes and were rolled down a hill, and wherever the barrel stopped by a rock, they were then burnt, or the remains of the witch were burnt. And then, sometimes the barrel actually went into the lock, and that's how they were disposed of. There was quite an extensive cost to all of this, and this is recorded in the records in Aberdeen Archive, and everybody that was involved, except of course the witch or the accused woman, mainly women. I haven't said men. There were a few men, but 85 to 90% of those accused were women, and the costs were quite spread out and quite extensive, and it was an industry. So the executioner got paid, the men taking the barrels got paid, the person who hired out the cart got paid, the judge got paid, the jury got paid. All of the accelerants needed were also costed and paid. Now, where that money came from, of course, was that any asset that the convicted or accused witch had, or her family, was taken over to pay for those costs. And if that wasn't the case, then there was a levy put on the parish, and the parish paid the cost.
That's all the time we have for part 4, but tune in very, very soon for the next part of the Aberdeenshire Witches podcasts. Remember, if you like these podcasts, please like, share, and subscribe.